The Battle of the Miljevci Plateau was a clash of the Croatian Army and forces of the Republic of Serbian Krajina, fought on 21–23 June 1992. During the Croatian War of Independence, the battle represented the culmination of a series of skirmishes between the HV and the RSK forces in Northern Dalmatia. After the implementation of the Vance plan and deployment of the United Nations Protection Force began, the skirmishes occurred in the pink zones, areas under control of the RSK, but outside the UN-protected areas established by the Vance plan. Elements of two HV brigades advanced several kilometers north of Šibenik and captured the Miljevci Plateau, encompassing 108 square kilometers of territory and 7 villages. After the battle, the UNPROFOR requested the HV to pull back to its positions prior to the 21st of June, and the request was followed by the United Nations Security Council Resolution 762 urging Croatia to withdraw from the plateau, but the HV remained in place. In the immediate aftermath, Croatian authorities claimed the offensive was not ordered by the General Staff and that the advance was made in response to a series of provocations. After the battle, some bodies of the killed RSK soldiers were thrown into a cast pit and were not retrieved until August, when the released prisoners of war informed the UNPROFOR of the location of the bodies. Background: in 1990, following the electoral defeat of the government of the Socialist Republic of Croatia, ethnic tensions worsened. The Yugoslav People's Army confiscated Croatia's territorial defense forces' weapons to minimize resistance. On the 17th of August, the tensions escalated into an open revolt by Croatian Serbs, centered on the predominantly Serb-populated areas of the Dalmatian hinterland around Nin, parts of the Lika, Kordun, Banovina regions and eastern Croatia. Following the Pakrac clash between Serb insurgents and Croatian Special Police in March 1991, the conflict had escalated into the Croatian War of Independence. The JNA stepped in, increasingly supporting the Croatian Serb insurgents. In early April, the leaders of the Croatian Serb revolt declared their intention to integrate the area under the control known as SAO Krajina with Serbia. In May, the Croatian government responded by forming the Croatian National Guard, but its development was hampered by a United Nations arms embargo introduced in September. On the 8th of October, Croatia declared independence from Yugoslavia, and a month later the ZNG was renamed the Croatian Army. Late 1991 saw the fiercest fighting of the war, as the 1991 Yugoslav campaign in Croatia culminated in the Siege of Dubrovnik and the Battle of Vukovar. In November, Croatia, Serbia and the JNA agreed upon the Vance plan, contained in the Geneva Accord. The plan entailed a ceasefire, protection of civilians in specific areas designated as United Nations protected areas and UN peacekeepers in Croatia. The ceasefire came into effect on 3 January 1992. In December 1991, the European Community announced its decision to grant a diplomatic recognition to Croatia on 15 January 1992. SAO Krajina renamed itself the Republic of Serbian Krajina on 19 December 1991. Despite the Geneva Accord requiring an immediate withdrawal of JNA personnel and equipment from Croatia, the JNA stayed behind for up to 8 months in some areas. When its troops eventually pulled out, JNA left their equipment to the RSK. As a consequence of organizational problems and breaches of ceasefire, the UN peacekeepers, named the United Nations Protection Force, did not start to deploy until the 8th of March. The UNPROFOR took 2 months to fully assemble in the UN-protected areas. Furthermore, The RSK forces remained in areas outside designated UNPAs which were under RSK control at the time of the signing of the Implementation Agreement, ceasefire of 3 January 1992. Those areas, later better known as the Pink Zones, were supposed to be restored to Croatian control from the outset of the plan implementation. Failure of this aspect of the implementation of the Vance plan made the Pink Zones a major source of contention for Croatia and the RSK. Prelude. Before the UNPROFOR fully deployed, the HV clashed with an armed force of the RSK in the village of Novskalik, located in a pink zone near Šibenik, and captured the village at 4:45 p.m. on 2 March 1992. The JNA formed a battle group to counterattack the next day. The JNA battle group, augmented by elements of the 9th Military Police Battalion, deployed at 5:50 a.m. and clashed with the HV force in Novskalik. However, the JNA counterattack failed. The HV captured 21 RSK troops in Novskalik, intent on exchanging the prisoners for Croats held under arrest in Nin. Following negotiations, the HV agreed to pull back on the 11th of April, but later declined to do so, claiming deteriorating security at the battlefield in general prevented the withdrawal. Several Serb-owned houses in Novskalik were torched after the HV captured the village. The HV clashed with units subordinated to the 180th Motorized Brigade of the JNA in a pink zone near Zada on 17–22 May, while the JNA repelled attacks in most areas around Zada and Stankovci. The HV managed to cut a JNA base at the Kriz Hill away from the rest of the force on 17 May. The JNA outpost occupied high ground overlooking the surrounding area, including Zada. It housed radar equipment and was used as an artillery observer post. The JNA attempted to relieve the besieged garrison in the next few days, however the attempts failed and the base surrendered to the HV on the 22nd of May. The attack and capture of the Kriz Hill, codenamed Operation Jaguar, was carried out by the 2nd Battalion of the 159th Infantry Brigade of the HV, supported by artillery of the 112th Infantry Brigade. Timeline. On the 21st of June, the HV attacked RSK positions at the Miljevci Plateau, located in the Pink Zone north of Šibenik. The two forces in the area were subordinated to the 1st Brigade of the 2 and Lieutenant Colonel General Milan Torbica. The HV deployed 250 troops, elements of the 113th and 142nd Infantry Brigades, commanded by Brigadier Kruno Mazalan. The HV had infiltrated the Pink Zone along 3 routes via Novskalik, across the Sikla River and by boat sailing upstream along the Krka River. During the night of 21 June, the fighting began at 5 a.m. as the HV force, deployed in 26 squads, captured 6 out of 7 villages on the plateau by the end of the morning. At 8:00 p.m., the HV captured the village of Kljuc and all of the plateau. The advance created a HV-held salient south of Nin, several kilometers deep. It also led the RSK artillery to bombard Šibenik and HV bombardment of Nin in response, both on the 22nd of June. The artillery fire progressively intensified until the 23rd of June, while the RSK mobilized and counterattacked against the HV positions at the Miljevci Plateau. However, the mobilization yielded only 227 additional troops, and the counterattack failed. A new UNPROFOR assessment concluded the situation might deteriorate further and engulf all of the Pink Zones. To address the situation, UNPROFOR military commander Lieutenant General Satish Nambiar met with Deputy Prime Minister of Croatia Milan Ramljak and Chief of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of the Republic of Croatia General Anton Tuš in Zagreb the same day, in order to discuss the developments on the Miljevci Plateau. Skirmishes continued on the 24th of June, accompanied by some artillery fire. Morale of the RSK troops plummeted though, causing a garrison based in nearby Trebunj to abandon its barracks. Aftermath. According to Croatian sources, the HV lost 7 or 8 troops killed in the battle. Serb source cite 40 killed RSK troops in the battle or its immediate aftermath, while the HV took 17 prisoners. The prisoners were taken to the Kulin barracks in Šibenik. On the 23rd of June, a total of 29 RSK soldiers killed at the Miljevci Plateau on the first day of the battle were thrown into the Basic pit, contrary to orders given by Brigadier Ivan Basic, commanding officer of the 113th Infantry Brigade. Basic ordered burial of the killed RSK troops at a local Serbian Orthodox cemetery. The same day, one prisoner, Miroslav Subotic, was shot in nose Kalik by HV personnel. He was one of a group of prisoners tasked with clearance of the area after the fighting. The HV also destroyed 10 tanks and armored personnel carriers, and captured 6 howitzers and a considerable stockpile of other weapons and ammunition in the battle. The offensive brought 7 villages and 108 square kilometers to HV control. During the meeting with Nambiar, Ramljak and Tuš claimed that the offensive was neither planned nor ordered by authorities in Zagreb. They stated that the advance was made in response to a series of provocations made by the RSK armed forces. Basic claimed that while no specific order to attack was received, Tuš did instruct him to respond aggressively and capture as much territory as possible in cases of grave breaches of ceasefire by the RSK forces. Nevertheless, Basic was reprimanded by the President of Croatia Franjo Tudman because of the offensive. In the RSK, Torbica was forced to resign his post and was replaced by Major General Mile Novakovic. UNPROFOR and the European Community Monitor Mission requested the HV to withdraw to positions held before the offensive, but the HV declined the request. However, Croatia agreed that UNPROFOR and ECMM monitors would continue to be present in the pink zones when Croatia assumed control over them. The move was planned as a way to reassure the Serb population that the pink zones could provide them safety. In the aftermath of the offensive, the United Nations Security Council adopted the UNSC Resolution 762, urging cessation of hostilities in and near the UNPAs, and urging the HV to pull back to positions held before the 21st of June. The 113th Brigade of the HV remained at the plateau regardless. The resolution authorized the UNPROFOR to perform monitoring of the pink zones. It also recommended establishment of a joint commission chaired by an UNPROFOR representative, and including representatives of the government of Croatia, local authorities and the ECMM to oversee restoration of Croatian control in the pink zones. The prisoners taken by the HV were released in August, and they informed the UNPROFOR about the bodies in the Basic pit and the death of Subotic. The bodies were retrieved by Croatian authorities in the presence of UNPROFOR and other international organizations. 2 Croatian military police members were charged with Subotic's murder in 2011. As of 2013, the trial is ongoing. In 2012, 20 years after the battle, President Ivo Josipović presented the Charter of the Republic of Croatia to the commanders and units involved in the battle, commending the military achievements. That was the first such move in 20 years, and a reversal of the official stance towards the offensive which had originally declared it as an unauthorized deployment of the HV.